기자부대, hop on the beat!
Earlier this month, we finally received some substantial news regarding the anime adaptation of Stone Ocean. We got the first PV, new art, as well as a release window and an extensive interview with the cast. In this video, I'll go over everything important that we know so far. I think the art style they have decided on for the anime does a pretty good job of representing the manga. Most JoJo parts have some level of art style change from Araki. This was most drastic in Part 4, which progressed from the Part 3 style to a more cartoonish style, and finally to the style we see in Part 5. The anime attempted to address this by combining styles with some mixed results. Part 5's art style differences weren't nearly as drastic, and I think it ended up turning out well in the end. Part 6 does actually have a big shift in the character's look between the beginning and the end. I think this style does a pretty good job of representing that while not going completely overboard and removing the original look. Some people express some concern over the key art, which I agree looks strange in some places. But I think any worries were dispelled after seeing the PV itself, which reflects the actual art style used in the season. The first reaction a lot of people had to the art was that other than Jolene, the characters are using their Shueisha manga colors, which many aren't a big fan of. I personally don't mind the colors for these characters, although I do prefer blue Anasui. However, compared to the colored manga, the anime does still have some color differences. Also, from what we've seen of characters outside the main cast, they can still be subject to new color choices, like Jungali A. So there may be hope yet for Lang Wrangler to not look completely hideous like he does in the manga. As for the content of the PV itself, there really isn't much to say. It doesn't exactly bring much new discussion to the table. As opposed to something like the Part 4 PV from way back in 2015, where we had a piece of original animation and a lot to talk about, or the Part 5 PV which gave us virtually nothing to work with, I'm thankful that this PV chose to go the route of representing the actual content of the season, and based on that, I think it looks very good. Alongside the trailer, we also got the reveal of the main cast and some interviews. I am definitely a fan of the choices made, and based on the interviews, these actors very clearly seem passionate about JoJo. Jolene's voice, Ifaruz, has a particularly endearing relationship with the series, and is definitely pretty knowledgeable about it, so I would suggest taking the time to watch the full event if you're interested in seeing that. One of the main pieces of news I'd like to talk about involves the release of the part. For the first time, the anime is partnered with Netflix for a release ahead of the TV broadcast. There isn't a lot of information currently available, but all official sources state that the anime will premiere on Netflix sometime in December, and then begin normal TV airing in January. The first thing that comes to mind for Netflix and anime would obviously be if they're going to release the season all at once like with most Netflix shows. Usually when Netflix picks up an anime, it waits until the season is completely over before releasing the show, as opposed to something like Crunchyroll, which releases episodes weekly alongside their normal release. In Japan, Netflix actually does release weekly episodes for anime, but we have yet to really see that here on a normal basis, let alone an early premiere on Netflix, whatever that means. I personally think that we may see Stone Ocean released in batches on Netflix. So maybe in December the first few episodes go up, and then more will appear once the show actually starts airing. Something like this happened with the Netflix original anime Great Pretender, which released episodes in small batches each week. But maybe they really will try out a true weekly release on American Netflix, and this is just the first time it's happened. A lot of people were convinced that the entire season would go up on Netflix in December. I find this highly unlikely. The main source people have for this is a Twitter account called Anime TV, which posted a tweet saying that the entire season would be released early. This tweet provides no actual source, and it just links back to the same announcement information everyone else has. This account isn't an actual news source or anything, it kind of just regurgitates anime news onto Twitter. The other source comes from a Crunchyroll article, which states something similar. At this point in time, however, the Crunchyroll article has been edited to remove the statement, and the original tweet from Anime TV was deleted and replaced with one that no longer mentions the full release. So we currently have no actual source claiming if the full season will release. Also, as with most TV anime, I doubt the full season will actually be finished until sometime after January. I find it quite unlikely they'd have everything done by December, since they only just announced it this April and haven't even had anything to show until now. And that's without even mentioning the restrictive nature of last year when it comes to production, although they might not have been working on it yet back then. If you've been watching the JoJo anime for a while, you definitely know that it's somewhat stretched budget-wise. Some people probably remember some rough moments on the tail end of Part 3. And for Part 4, there were a lot of people disappointed with the look of certain scenes. I think Part 5 actually ended up being spared from a lot of this, possibly due to the few recap episodes we got to give the studio more time. If that's what it takes for DP to get the job done, then I'm totally in favor of it. But that is one point that also makes me doubt a full December Netflix release even being a possibility. As for what I would want, I definitely prefer a weekly release. Beyond the obvious fact that a weekly release gives more time to polish the season, it also greatly benefits discussion. When an episode releases each week, everyone collectively discusses it and anticipates future episodes. Even for people who have already read the manga, this is a very exciting period of time. I know it has been for me, who had already read the manga for each newly animated part since Part 3. However, if the entire season released at once, most people would binge watch it and discussions surrounding the show would persist for maybe a month or two after release before people move on. There'd also be a significant lack of focus on the smaller moments, and people would likely just talk about the same big things we already do with the manga. There's also a point to be made about the whole Araki forgot idea with this. I'm not sure whether a full release or weekly would have more of an effect on the attention span of JoJo fans. On one hand, weekly releases give more time to focus on the small details, but on the other, a full release might make people less likely to forget previous episodes. But I'm not sure if that's true, since plenty of people have read the fully released manga, or previously released seasons and still miss details. But it's interesting to think about. A full release also removes a lot of the anticipation when it comes with a newly animated JoJo part. There's always a lot of wondering about what the opening will be like, how many openings there will be, what the credit song will be, and so on. If the entire season comes out at once, there won't be any anticipation for these things, since people will just go and check and post it online. In the event of a full release, I'd definitely have to just completely blacklist social media for a while until I was done watching. So I am definitely more in favor of a normal release. As with any JoJo season, I am extremely excited for the anime of Part 6. It's going to be great to see one of my favorite stories animated and see what changes they might make. I'll definitely be keeping up with the news related to the release, so I may have another video discussing it if we get another piece of important news. If you want to be updated on new videos or leave suggestions, join the Hamen Beat Discord using the link in the description. To receive rewards like Discord perks and some uncut videos, you can support the channel on Patreon. And finally, for future videos, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. This is the part of the video where I thank my $5 and up patrons. Thank you to the Owl God, Alex Ramirez, Raziana, Anasui Hat, Doorbell, Cloudy, Monkman, Ashton Joseph Miller, Crayon, Jesper Jansen, Austin Nino, Rigo Vids, Zucato, Shane Giger, Walter White, Whiskey, Taylor Choi, and Pumpkin Doge.